Patriots and signed Ted Ginn as his replacement. Ginn said earlier this week that Drew Brees can extend his career after spending 3 of the last 4 years in Carolina with Cam. Stephen A., would you say Drew Brees is underappreciated?
Without question. I definitely think that he is. I mean, Drew Brees is one of the great quarterbacks in NFL history. I mean, this dude's got about 5,000-yard passing seasons on his resume. For the past 11 years straight, he has thrown for over 4,000 yards. This dude has a career completion percentage over 66. We're talking about starting quarterbacks making 50 and 60 million with guaranteed dollars that can't even reach the 60 percentile when it comes to completing passes. And Drew Brees, who is no scrambler, who is a pocket passer, stands in that pocket Sunday after Sunday and makes the New Orleans Saints offense lethal for the last decade. He's got a Super Bowl championship on his resume. His offense is religiously, annually, one of the elite offenses in all of football. And somehow, some way, the New Orleans Saints can't find it within themselves to get this man a defense. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Pretty much for the last 5 years, their defense has been ranked 28th or worse in the entire NFL, with the exception of one reprieve under the first year of Rob Ryan before he ultimately wet the bed and couldn't get anything right. They don't give him anything to work with. Bodies are changing, coaches are changing, etc. Drew Brees is the one constant. He shows up, he produces, he's a pillar of the community, he's an elite passer, he's a leader, he does it all. And what does he have to get? What does he have to show for it? You know who Drew Brees is, or you know who he would be, Jeff Saturday and Max? If it wasn't for the one Super Bowl championship, he'd be Dan Marino.
Yep.
One of the greatest ever, but doesn't have a ring to show for it because the organization doesn't seem fit to prioritize the other side of the ball to give this man a break. They're saying, we're paying you these exorbitant amount of dollars. Go out there and give us numbers and entertain the fans. The hell with winning. You're on your own. That's what I think the Saints have done with him, and I think it's a crying damn shame.
You're so right, Stephen A. The other consistent is no defense. But I'm very embarrassed because I was very rude and didn't introduce you earlier. Jeff Saturday, so good to have you here with us.
No worries. No offense there.
Drew Brees, I think, is perfectly properly rated and appreciated. When Peyton Manning was active for years, there was a class of quarterbacks, 4 of them, that everyone had as different than everybody else. There was Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Drew Brees. He was always mentioned with those guys as the upper tier. And then every year someone would poke their head up, and is he in the upper tier? This year it's Matt Ryan. Usually it's Roethlisberger. A lot of times it's Roethlisberger underappreciated because he's usually not mentioned with those 4. But when push comes to shove, he's a future Hall of Famer. He's got a Super Bowl championship. He's a perennial MVP candidate. But Stephen A., when push comes to shove, Peyton Manning or Drew Brees in their prime. Peyton. Tom Brady or Drew Brees. You take Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees. You take Aaron Rodgers. In other words, people know what the truth is. It's fun to say guys like that are underrated because he's just about as good as those guys. And he's in their class. But when push comes to shove, who here is taking Drew Brees at his best versus Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or Aaron Rodgers at his best? None of us are. We know he gives him a run, but ultimately he is 4th in that quartet. And now, if he remains as good as he was, more or less, he was a little inconsistent this year, but if he goes back to being Drew Brees consistently, he will be right there, but not quite as good as Rodgers and Brady. Like, everyone knows exactly how good he is.
Here's the thing. He's always the bridesmaid, never the bride. That's pretty much the issue with Drew Brees. You think about the MVP, and how he is always perennially in the mix, but never gets it. And I go back to 2011 when Aaron Rodgers gets it, right? Brees threw for over 5,000 yards. I think he threw for 1 more touchdown than Aaron Rodgers. He had the MVP year, but the Packers were 15-1, the Saints were 13-3. So he doesn't get the same respect, right? And the thing that shows you the most is in the voting, it was 48-2. Right, 48-2. A guy threw 5,500 yards, and it's 48-2. You get no nod at the MVP. I think he's underappreciated. Listen, this guy, to Steven's point, he comes out every year ripping this ball and gunning. They constantly moving guys. So to say he's underappreciated, because I would say in some of the systems that you would put Drew Brees in with these other guys, his numbers may even be better, which would be insanity because his numbers are already. I mean, he's third in passing yards, third in pass touchdowns, and first in completion percentage in NFL history. I mean, in history.
Can't go wrong with Drew Brees. Who do you want, him or Tom Brady? Push comes to shove. Who do you guys want, Brees or Brady?
This is what I'm asking you, though. This is what I'm asking you.
Brees or Peyton?
When people have those conversations about being underappreciated, is he the same? Is he as good as those guys? You're saying absolutely not. He's not as good as Aaron Rodgers. As I would disagree with that. I would say that he's got to be in that. Although Rodgers has 2 MVPs, how would you not argue that he could be the exact same in that?
No, I know he's in the conversation.
He's gotta be,
but ultimately, when you Jeff Saturday ranks him, I guarantee you he has Rodgers ahead of Brees.
But what I'm saying, here's my point. Is when you're saying that, you're dismissing. That's why I say he would be underestimated or undervalued. Because in my opinion, he's on the same par. He's Aaron Rodgers to me. And he's been here longer and done it longer. He's been more consistent for a longer percentage of his career. He doesn't have the ups and downs, right? 9 seasons with 30+ touchdowns. Man, I mean, the guy he does not go bad. It is never Drew Brees' issue. And to Stephen A's point, the Super Bowls, if they give him any style of defense, I mean, they are atrocious on defense. He makes more runs at it, and then the conversation, you may be having the opposite. He may be in there with the Peyton Mannings and the Aaron Rodgers and the Tom Bradys.
He did beat Peyton in a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was on that team.
Yeah, sure, but you know what? You know what? Once upon a time, by the way, he played lights out. Once upon a time in New York City, there were 3 baseball teams had center fielders: Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, and Duke Snider. And back then, it was like, Duke Snider's just about as good. Why does he's under? But you know what? He wasn't quite as good as Willie Mays or Mickey Mantle. He's in the same category, but not quite as good.
Same thing. Are you putting that because of championships?
No, I'm saying in the end, we'd all have them the same way.
Can I get back to the real point?
Yes.
Max Kellerman. This man has not had a QBR lower than 67 since 2007.
Right.
This dude, he's a model of consistency.
No doubt.
But Brady and all of them are irrelevant. We're not saying that, you take him over Brady or whatever. I'm saying if you're the Saints, how can you have somebody this elite for 9 years, 10 years, 11 years,
and
never give him some defense?
I agree with that.